Okay, hello everybody. This video I'm going to show you how I would create this part called Sketch Practice 2, which was in part of the handout for this week. So just to point out a couple things. This R radius 1.75 is referring to this feature here. And it again is referred to as a fillet in this case, and the fillet is tangent to these two lines. The radius here, 1.13, which is centered from this circle, is actually referred to as a round, not a fillet, though the SOLIDWORKS interface, you would be using the fillet tool sometimes if you wanted to put this feature in. These two angled parts, again, can be referred to as chamfers. I am going to put them in as actual just sketched features, but when someone refers to as a chamfer, this idea of cutting something off at an angle, basically knocking off a corner would be the term, is sometimes referred to as a chamfer. We have the call out of 2x with a diameter and a 1.25. So that actually refers to these two holes. But if you notice over here, this slot, the dimension here for essentially the diameter of the slot is also 1.25. So when I create this part, I'm actually going to set all of these diameters equal to each other using an equal sketch relation. The way I'm going to create this part is by creating a construction line that will link these two circles with the slot. And once I have that created, then I'm going to create the outside profile, but it's going to be based off of a circle here that has a radius of 1.13. That's going to link these lines to the construction lines and the circles that I create on it. So hopefully it'll make sense to you as I go along with it. I'm going to assume you have this part open in front of you so that you can follow along with the dimensions. I will just start using a new part. Here I'm just going to left click and choose sketch on the front plane. Go into my line tools, select center line, select over here, move towards the origin, make sure I get that coincident, and then just go up at some angle. I don't really care what it is, and I'm going to double click to finish the line. I am going to right click and click select to get out of the line tool, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my dimensions now. Use my smart dimension tool, and from the center here to the end of the slot, that dimension is 5. And the dimension I want here to the other circle is going to be 5.63. I'm going to make sure it's aligned, so I'm going to right click to lock it in place, and that'll be 5.63. And the last thing I need is an angle here, and you'll notice that the angle is to an upward vertical, so I could put a vertical line here to make that 30 degrees, but I know that this angle here then is going to be 30 plus 90, which is 120 degrees. So I'll just put in a 120 degree angle. So I'm going to go in and put in the two circles, and note that I'm still in the dimension tool, so I can just come up here and I don't have to get out of it. I can just click on the circle tool. I'll come over here, click and drag to put one circle, click and drag here to put the second circle. Now, the next thing I want to do is put the slot in, and this is the center point of the far end of the slot. So I'm going to go up here, and there's a handy tool. It's called the straight slot tool. Now notice there are other types of slots underneath it, but I want a straight slot, and this is going to allow me to put 2 points in. Here's 1 point, and here's the second point, and I'll drag out. So this is a 3-click sketch entity. Click 1, click 2 to set the width of the slot or the length of the slot, and click again to essentially give the width of the slot or the diameter. Now I'm going to right click again to select to get out of the tool, and now I'm going to right click again and grab my smart dimension tool. I'm just going to put it on 1 point here. So this is going to be a diameter of 1.25. So I'll hit escape to get out of the tool. Now I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm going to select that. Holding the control key down, I'll select this and just one of the radiuses of the slot. I'll let go, come up here and say I want to make all those equal to each other. So there are my 1.125s. Now you'll notice that the slot here, or this endpoint of the slot, I remember I told you in class that if you see something blue, try to drag it. So if I come in here, it wouldn't let me drag the actual circle arc, but if I dragged this endpoint, it would move it back and forth. Or you'll note that there is also a center point to the slot, also letting me allow it to drag. So the other end of the slot, the dimension is 3.25. So I can right click, go to my Smart Dimension tool, select here and my origin of my sketch, and that should be 3.25. All right, so now if you see, I've got the holes for my part. Now I need to put in the actual structure of the part. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a circle. And that circle has a radius of 1.13. So I'll right click, go to my dimension tool, select the circle, and I'm putting its diameter in, so I'm going to go 2 times 1.13. Of course, I know it's 2.26, but I'm just, again, when I can use that as a calculator, I'm going to try to remind you that that's possible. All right, so one of the things I can do here is, you might say these dimensions are getting in my way, so I can kind of pull these ones down and this one out of the way. This one too. Sometimes you want to do that just to make your drawing a little bit easier to handle so that you can see everything. All right, so now what I'm going to do is how do I do the rest of it? Well, the bottom line here is going to snap to this bottom quadrant, right? So I'm just going to select here. I'm going to come out a bit, and now I'm just going to kind of draw the 3 lines and just drop this line somewhere. I don't really know where that's going to be yet, and I'll hit escape. So now I can put in some additional dimensions. So this one is going to be 7.13. So the next dimension here is 1.75. And the top line from here to here, so I'm dimensioning now between two lines, is 2.63. And then we have this angle of 45 degrees. And you might say, where's the angle? Well, if I click here and this line here and then pull up, it gives me the angle. Of course, I can get this angle, I can get that exterior angle, or I can come up and it'll actually give me the vertical line. It'll extend that up. So that's 45 degrees. So now I'm not going to worry about this portion of it right here. That's just going to sort of fix itself. And what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to right click and go to sketch entities. So I'm doing a couple little cool things here that I don't often do, but kind of force myself to do it to remind you that these are possible. So I'm going to select on my line here, select somewhere on the circle, and pull up, and you'll notice that when you do that, this line is going to end up being tangent. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop it up here somewhere. On purpose, make an angle, because this line, it has to be parallel to this center line. So I'm going to select the line, hold down my control key, select the center line, let go of the control key, and make those two parallel to each other. Now I can put in its dimension, which is 6.75. So again, right click, go to the Smart Dimension, come here, and it is 6.75. And now I'm going to go, again, I'm going to try to keep doing this. Right click, go to my sketch entities, go to my line, and I'm going to draw one. Now notice, right, I'm going to get my perpendicular constraint here. So I'll come out at just some angle, and then I'll come straight down. So I clicked and I'll hit the escape key. And you say, that looks really ugly. Well, it is until we put some dimensions on. For the 1.75, I'm going to select this line, hold down my control key and select that line and make those equal to each other. So what we're doing here is essentially capturing what's referred to as design intent when I have dimensions that I don't need to create again. And you say, well, but they're on the drawing. Well, they're on the drawing, but we don't need to add those to our part because assumedly we're going to make this solid model and have it made somehow in some advanced manufacturing process, not going to a machine shop where an individual machinist is going to make it. All right, so again, we're going to put this angle in. Let me get back to my smart dimension from here to here, and this is going to be 45 degrees. And then this point here to this line here is going to be 2.63. Now it still looks weird because I need to make this line and this line parallel to each other. So I'll select here and I'll select here and I will make them parallel. All right, so now how do I finish up this last bit over here? Well, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to connect those together using an arc. And I'll make that arc then tangent to this line, and give its radius. So I'm going to go up to this arc tool. So there's different arcs. There's center point arc, tangent arc, and this one is just going to be the 3-point arc. So I'll select it. Here's point 1. Here's point 2. And then I'm just going to drop the arc anywhere. So now how do I finish this up? Well, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to select the arc, hold my control key down, select that line, and make those tangents. I'll select this line, the arc rather, that line, make them tangent, and then come in here with my Smart Dimension tool and make that radius 1.75. Hit the escape key to get out. Make sure that I am fully defined, and let me go ahead and show you that I can extrude it in this fashion, and then we'll come back and trim it as well. So I'm going to go here to Features, Extruded Boss. Again, you'll see that as in the previous video, it's asking me for what contours I want because it doesn't know. So I'm going to select that contour and this contour, and I'll just use the arrow to pull it out a certain thickness. And I could say OK and create my part. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a Control Z and get myself back to my sketch. And in this case, I could use the Trim Entities tool. And I can come in here with just my mouse and drag across this line and that line and that line. So again, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. The reason why I hesitate to do things like that is that I'm throwing away good geometry. I may want to come back and modify that at a later point in time, and you have more control of it when you have your actual circle. So now if you feel ambitious, you can answer a couple questions about this sketch.